So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the MSAD 60 Board of Directors meeting on March 12th, 2026. To start out, let's please say this Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our Vice Chair will now read the public input statement.
Hi, good evening. The first public input session is a 21-minute session with each person having no longer than 3 minutes. Did we say 2 minutes?
10 minutes.
So this is a
10-minute, because it's the workshop. Yeah.
Right, but
2 minutes.
2 minutes, right? So a total of 10 minutes, 2 minutes each to make a statement, but a second public input session may be held at the end of the meeting if allowed by the board chair. Each speaker will give his or her name, address, and reason for speaking. Public input is designated for district residents, but the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity to address the board. Statements concerning subject matter that falls under the law regarding executive sessions, for example, matters involving personnel cannot be made during public input. And I believe for this session, this has to be related to the budget workshop, nothing outside of that topic for tonight. We as a community pledge to treat each other as we wish to be treated. We pledge to seek understanding where there may be disagreement. Regardless of outcomes or opinions, we pledge to move forward with respect. This is time for comments and or questions, but please be aware that they may not be able to be answered at this meeting.
Thank you. So we'll start out. Does anyone in the audience, please, if you have any public input, could you step to the podium? Mr. Leggett.
The one in front of you, push the button. Yep. There you go.
I just come up here saying that, sorry, Matt Leggett, Lebanon, Maine. I'm opposed to pretty much any, increase to the budget. And it's because of the way our school has performed last year. We, again, still only have half the kids that are performing academically and reading. Like 20% can do academics at grade level in science. There is nobody in this district, nobody that's getting a raise for doing 20% of their job. No one. Last year, there were huge raises, administration got big raises. Like, we continue to give raises to people who are not doing their job. The core function of school is to have kids do academics at grade level. That's the basic function of this building. Nothing else should matter. That kids come out of here educated is the only thing that matters. If you're not doing your job, the only way we can test that is through standardized testing or talking to seniors that leave here to see how they're doing. It's the only way the public can find out if school's doing well. Standardized testing or talking to a senior that's graduated. And if you talk to the seniors, the majority of them are not prepared for life. They're not. And we look at their standardized testing and we fail. Why are we giving raises to anybody? Why is the budget going up at all? I understand it's hard. Prices of everything have increased. That means administration is going to have to figure that out. But this board should say, no, we aren't going up on the budget one dime because we're not performing. Because nobody here in this district that sends their kids gets a raise when they don't do their job. Nobody. That school is doing it is just ridiculous. It's not fair to everyone that pays taxes to pay for someone to get a raise that isn't doing their job. So I hope this board shoots down any budget that increases at all. And I hope the board figures out how we either change our curriculum or do something to get our NWA, our testing up, and be able to talk to seniors and find out that the majority of them are doing very well in college or in their job or wherever they go after school.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a statement? Okay, before we get into the full agenda, we would like to add one item, a executive session for a personnel issue. That would be executive session 403-6B, and we'd like to add that to the end of the meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. We have a second. We have a motion to approve, we have a motion to change the agenda to reflect an executive session for personnel issue at the end of the meeting. All those in favor? And opposed? And the motion passes.
So just to recap what we're doing this evening, we are going through some of the cost centers that we did not finish working through on Saturday. And from there, one of the biggest topics that for this evening, after that part of the discussion, is personnel. There are a lot of things that came up from that meeting, but because there were several pieces about personnel, that's the topic we're going to address this evening. And that should probably take us to 2 hours. So before we do that, we do have some updates that we want to make sure that you receive for
Thank
your,
you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Hold it down.
Hold it.
Yeah. It's
Sorry.
like it punishes you.
You just want to make sure you have some updates. So they are coming around and they're new tabs. So you want to look through, you can make sure they're paper clipped, so make sure the tabs go where they need to go. So,
They replacing our OTAB?
Yeah.
yeah, so you can take them out. Denise, go ahead.
I would leave them so that you can refer to them again, like you can just place them on top. The dates at the bottom will tell you what version.
Okay.
Don't want to mess up the binder.
That's okay. It's your.
And we'll just give you a minute to look through them and put them in the binder. These are fresh. Yep.
It's gonna, or the change is gonna be obvious.
I don't know
Change them exactly what you have, to be honest, but most of the changes I've done so far are not, they are typos, they are, you know, correcting a formula if it was a little wonky, it's those types of things.
like for Lebanon, under the stipends, it listed a different school instead.
It was the typo.
Also have an updated copy of the staff list with, like, who's doing what.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
thank you.
We can pass that out.
I'm also gonna pass out the total number of IEPs and 504s and enrollment documents. These guys. And that can go in tab 122, however you want to put it. Maybe in your staff tab.
We also have, now that those are all filed, we'll hand out the projected enrollment for next year by school, by grade, by section. And again, maybe 19, tab 19. Thank you. When you look at this document, you do see that we did put in parentheses if their student count is going up or down compared to this year. We will start with tab 18, which is nursing.
So I'll go over that with you guys. If we look at, the second page, which is the detail by expense category.
So we're getting feedback.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Managing the microphones. Okay, so basically, to be honest with you, this is all just contractual salary increases. We haven't increased the number of nurses we've maintained throughout the district. So it's the contracted salary increases. Same with the piece through the benefits, it's that piece of that. Other than that, if you go down to total purchase contracted services, there is an increase to the contracted services health center. That is we have a contract with, York Hospital to be our sort of standing provider. And so they were $2,000 per year for their services to us, and they increased to $2,200. So they allow us to get, prescriptions and take care of like any standing orders, things like, the EpiPens and things like that. And then, they reduced their supplies. Just they've been kind of tightening it up and trying to provide that. Go ahead.
$5 a student.
Oh, based on the student numbers, right? So they cut it by $5 a student. Is that how they worked it out? Yeah.
We're allowing for $5 a student, so that was like, because our student enrollment is dropping.
Yeah.
I mirrored that.
Thank you. And then equipment, we actually purchased a little bit more equipment last year and they were not needing the upgrade, they went throughout the buildings and everybody's in pretty good shape. So they only had very minor adjustments that needed to be made. Dues and memberships are staying the same. This is a pretty tight budget. They really are not, they were not asking for anything. And that, I'm open to whatever questions you have.
This include the new medicines they have to keep on staff now for like the new policy that we just entered in. For, like
Yes,
the
it
Narcan
does.
and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah, it does. Questions about that? Alrighty.
Can I just ask, I just know
Sure.
there's a $10,000 stipend.
Yeah, so that is for our nursing director, so which is Amy Crane. And
Yeah.
she oversees all the nurses. They pull together for PLCs, but she's also our go-to when we have any questions regarding the actual medical pieces of the district. She's very, very good. And then she does all the supervision for the full nursing staff as well.
All right, so the next group that we're looking at is tab 6. And that's multilingual learners, community engagement, school health coordinator, 504 plans.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys had time to just look through the overview regarding, this is the catch-all category, to be honest with you. So the MLL teacher. We have one teacher who services the entire district for students with multi-language. So she moves around and that's her schedule based on that. We also do have a person at the high school who is an addition. Is it 1 day a week? Is that what it is in terms of the amount?
I don't know the specific, maybe.
Yeah. AJ knows. So
It's a part.
she's actually a foreign language teacher for us who also does a piece of time with Christine Howley. Yeah. So is it a block?
She does a couple of blocks.
Okay.
In that role, and one of them, because she's passionate about that, she's willing to work with some students during them. Prep time, so it's a little tricky to tell how much.
Right.
But she.
There's a piece of her. Yeah. So that, if you look at page, you do it specifically. If you look at page 3, I believe. Actually, let's go to page 4 because it breaks it down individually that way. So that is the current, so the increase is basically just the typical contractual increases in time as Denise had shared with us before. And then the benefits, somebody stepped away from some of them, so they went down, which is, fortunate for us. And then everything else is pretty much the same right down across the board. We try to send Christine to a national conference at least like once a year, and mostly it's really gone into every other year for her. There is not a lot in Maine that actually supports that, the multi-language learners in terms of professional development. So we try to get her out there at least every other year to connect. So that's where any of the travel, that kind of stuff is related to. She also does travel in district, which is why we have that line there. She works really hard to use her day so that she spends a day at a school versus wandering, but it just depends on things within the district. And honestly, things fluctuate throughout the year. We get move-ins and we have kiddos that move out. Questions regarding that piece? All right, so moving over to the Community Engagement Center, that one has been whittled down more and more and more throughout the years. It's a portion of an ed tech who just monitors and takes care of the community closet that we have. He works with the backpack program at some level as well, and does a lot of, just reaching out, working actually with the ELO folks here at the high school as well, setting up the business. She has good communication with Pratt Whitney, with the shipyard, that kind of thing. So she participates in those pieces. The rest of her job is actually in, she's a regular ed in a special ed program, the access program. So these are the pieces there. Very minor increase in her salary, and then we reduced their supplies and books down by $1,000. Her expenses actually, everything went down. And our last is our school health coordinator, and that is a no longer. So we no longer have our school health coordinator. We have excellent health teachers and PE folks, and they work together. And David Vargas actually has taken over the wellness group so that he pulls them together and they talk about, keep continuing the wellness program that Erin used to do. The reduction of that. And then the last one is our 504 ADA homeless counts. Of course, I mean, this is actually, we reduced our tutoring because that has been less utilized for whatever reason, which is fine. And so this is based on the funding used. And then we did increase the supplies and books piece, but it's really not an increase because the buildings have been sort of absorbing costs for 504s and things like that. So we tried to instead set aside some funds district-wide so that they can utilize that. Things happen, our kids come in and they might need something electronic that we need to provide with 504s, that piece of it. So that is pretty much the overview of those things.
The Community Engagement Center, that's not a stipend. It's like a separate position. She worked for us, right? And then
It has, over the years, we used to, it funded for many years, and then it was, we had a full-time ed tech 3 who did that role. And then over the years, we've just whittled away into it. And so she's actually moved into a regular special education position, but has maintained this a portion of her salary to just go towards that. Yeah.
Who manages the 504 plans in the district?
So in general, I'm the person who does the big overview, but really it's our counselors and principals in each of the building principals.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to tab 3, and that's Career and Technical Education. That's Sanford Regional Technical Center. We do not have a lot of kind of say in this per se, because this is the tuition to send our students to SRTC. So currently we have 110 students at SRTC, and the numbers that we received from Sanford is that they are going to expect to accept up to 124 students next year for us. So that will be an increase. So thus their projection for the tuition includes that increase in students and then an increase in tuition. So. And then we'll go on to tab 4, which is debt service. And debt service, I always like to present on this one. So this one is based on buildings, largely the buildings. So when we say we don't have debt, it is because our buildings are currently paid off, correct?
What happens is this category is reserved for debt that relates to state-approved projects. So if the state approves a new building for us, we would go through there and the debt would appear in this section. The things we've done previously with the buildings, the HVAC and other projects, because they were initiated by us, they are not the state-sponsored category. So that's why this is 0, but we keep it in there just to remind people, and I'm sure one day in the future we'll need it.
Thank you. And then the last one we're going to look at tab-wise, well, cost center-wise, is going to be system administration. That's tab 23. So just as a reminder from Saturday, we have salaries and wages, and Denise spoke to the salaries and wages and benefits on Saturday, just kind of talking about some similarities that we're going to see throughout the cost center. So this is reflected in that. We'll talk about a couple of those areas that have increased. So for legal fees, we are negotiating 2 contracts next year. So we did increase our legal fees just because from time to time, we do have, we work with the law firm to just make sure that everything is in compliance with what we need to do for employment purposes. And then if we need any kind of, double checking of things, we do use that. Our biggest expense here is advertising. And Indeed, or anytime you use like that kind of a platform, it is much more expensive than School Spring. However, we are not, School Spring is very limited with how it goes out to folks, and Indeed has a wider audience. So we've been able to put some of our positions like our drivers, our custodians, school nutrition, specific biology teachers, some of those positions go on Indeed. So there's just a wider range of candidates that look through those different kind of vacancies. So we continue to use that, but it is more expensive. So that is reflected there. I do want to go back up to communication under salaries and wages. I apologize for that. There is a decrease there. We are proposing to eliminate the position of the Director of Communications, primarily because we have done a lot of work at the school levels to make sure that the communication, the newsletters, the Facebook, the social media pages are up and running for that. We've done some different kinds of work throughout the district, like the newsletter, the annual report. We have a lot of templates already in place that we're using to work through that. So you'll see that there's a decrease in that area. We also know that some of this position works with us to support board meetings, but we have some stipends that we're going to be able to offset some of that so that we do have some technical assistance at the board meetings, because that does come up sometimes. So that is that. And then I think if you turn to that second page, we do have an increase under dues for $2,400 in membership fees. And those are just, we're not going to we're not signing up for new things. It's just an increase in the area.
One of the things that we participate in is a regional service center. So it is a combination of many school districts that get together and we do various things. This last year, we held all-day training, one for central office and financial staff, and one for custodians and maintenance workers. And historically, the Regional Service Center has had enough to cover some of those costs because we all chip in to kind of fund them. And there is the potential we may have to kick in some money this year. So I wanted to just make sure some of that was there and available.
Can I just make a comment on cutting the communications position? I'm not a fan of that because it directly relates to our strategic plan. And I don't know, as I feel like we've gotten to some point where we've solved that problem. I still think we have a long ways to go to make sure that we're communicating out to the district what we need to. So not a fan of that.
We also, some of the remaining funds in that section we had a 2-year plan to continue to look through the websites, all of the web pages. We still have money in there allotted for that because we did not get that. We started that this past summer. It will continue on through this summer so that everything is uploaded. So, but
Right, yeah, I hear you.
yes,
And I know there are
yes,
pieces, but I
yeah.
think the thing that is missing is that leadership piece
Sure.
of somebody who's
Mhm.
overseeing that and really driving it. And I
Okay.
think we've seen some significant gains because of that and taking that way now seems a little precipitous to me.
So that's a conversation, right?
Mhm.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Nancy,
I was going to ask about the website.
okay.
You've answered it.
And then let's move into fund. Do you want to do fund balance next, Denise?
Sure.
So that is tab
Favorite.
10. Tab 10.
Okay. So in our accounting, we have 3 primary fund balances that we have to work with. We have fund balance for the general fund, which includes this primary budget. We have fund balance for school nutrition and for adult education. And just briefly, fund balance is the amount remaining from the start of the district in 1967 through June 30 of 25. So through that time, we've had all of those years of budgets and we've saved and spent different amounts of money. So when we're talking fund balance, we're talking about how much is left. It helps us, having a balance helps us if we are in a stretch and need it, but it also helps with cash flow because it helps have money on hand again for those unexpected expenses. And we don't have to worry if, something unexpected happens.
In the
So-
3 payroll months, right?
Right. So the first one we'll go to is the general fund. I believe that's your page 1. And the estimated fund balance at June 30, 25 is 2.2 million. And we have some of that is non-spendable, meaning part of that balance goes to prepaid expenses, for example. So our dental bill for July of any year has to be paid in June, but it's really meant for July. So there's that crossover between fiscal years, and those things cannot be spent. So we take that prepaid out of the balance, which gives us unassigned fund balance of the 2.1 million. We have a proposal to use 445,000 in our, to cover the cost of some facilities projects. So we deduct that from the 2.1 million. And that would leave us approximately 1.7 million, which is approximately 3.2%. So we're allowed by state law to have up to 9% of fund balance remaining.
Which is kind of new, right? It used to be 3%.
It was 3% for many, many years. After COVID, they ramped up how much we could have in fund balance, and they brought it back down. But it really is a good fiscally responsible thing to have fund balance. We used to carry somewhere around 750,000 was a rough target for us. Each payroll now is anywhere from $1.2 million to like $1.5 million. So having 1.7 is a bit more than a payroll for us. So it's good to see it at 3%. And of course, we'll continue to try to grow that each year. Again, just to be financially responsible. We can go to the school nutrition page. And every part of this has different rules. Nutrition, again, is a similar concept. Our estimated fund balance at the end of June of 25 was 872,000. Deducting the non-spendable portion and the amount used in the fiscal 26 budget leaves approximately 709,000. We are proposing to use 186,000 of this to end at a balance of 523,000. Now with school nutrition, you are capped, I believe, at 3%. And if you have more than that, you have to write a letter to the state telling them what your plan is to get it down to the balance that where you're supposed to have. We have, over the years, we've been in places where the district has had to pay into school nutrition to make it zero. So the school nutrition program was not funding itself. Since COVID, it's been able to fund itself. And so that's why our spending down is really an effort to make sure equipment is replaced. Use it for the one-time purchases, not for ongoing expenses, but for one-time purchases so that when the money is gone, we're not digging a hole for ourselves, because that's the thing, right? Because someday you will have spent it, and if you rely on ongoing salaries or benefits or something, where are you going to get the money from at that point? So this one-time purchase for equipment and such things is how we need to spend it down.
Do you know what the 523 is, relates to as a percent?
As a percentage. I can get that for you. Let me do that at a break.
Thank you.
And then adult education again. Similar concept, but adult education doesn't really have any parameters that I'm aware of. You can't have too much or too little. Though I think if we went negative with the overall expenses in adult education, the district would have to cover whatever that overage is. We have 184,000 at June 30 of 25. We are using 76,000, almost 77,000 in fiscal 26 toward the budget. And we're proposing to use 58,000 for the 27 budget, which would leave us approximately 48,000. So what we're doing, and you'll notice in the budget for adult ed, we're increasing the cost of the local share. We're going from 150,000 for the 3 towns to 175 to step out of using this fund balance. We do have a separate account for enrichment, which are all the classes you see in the great flyers and booklets they send out. And if there is money there, we sweep that over to fund part of the adult education. So some years you'll see it in the budget, other years it will just happen if there's extra. But that is fund balance in a nutshell. I know it can be confusing, but.
Okay, I'll raise my hand because it's a dumb question. So where it says additional amount used to reduce taxpayer burden, has that already been moved over to someplace in the budget? Or is this something that we give back to the towns?
This is something that we move in the budget. So when you look at the revenue part of adult education, for example, one of their revenue streams to offset expenses is this 58,000.
Which rolls us right into revenue.
Or something. We did not cover school nutrition last time. So as Denise was talking about that fund balance piece for school nutrition, we should look at that. David is at Knowlton School right now at an event, and Michelle is here. Thank you for coming. But that's where he is. So he was in Washington over the weekend, and now he's at Knowlton School. So we should take a look at the school nutrition, which is tab 21.
We'll do this together.
I can do it if you want.
Yeah, you can do it if you want to. I think that's good.
So there are no changes to staffing levels. And I'll preface this by saying this is what I know from David, and if you have specific questions, I'll do my best. There are no staffing increases other than contractual increases. Medical and dental and all the benefits, again, we went over that last weekend, but essentially we budget for the positions we have in the budget. We budget for what people are actually taking today. So if they're on a family plan today, we assume there'll be a family plan next year. And we put forth a 5% increase to both medical and dental for the coming year. Let's see. Most of the others, again, are a percentage of salary. The other category, again, I haven't updated it, I will. Other category includes things like unemployment, workers' compensation, FICA. So those are the other things that are appearing in that category. So David reduced professional development. He indicated that he's hosting some things this year, so he doesn't have to pay to go. And will therefore be saving a little bit of money there. The computer maintenance expenses increased. We added 2 new vending machines this year, and they're connected to the student point of sale system so they can enter their numbers in and use the vending machines. outside of kitchen hours. We have the preventive maintenance. We are allocating 10,000 for that annual maintenance to equipment in the kitchens. And an additional 35 for regular school maintenance. When you go down to supplies, this is where a big category is food expenses and non-food expenses like trays, napkins, all kinds of, again, non-food, could be small utensils and things as well. And he is anticipating that these will go down a bit, the cost of the things he's doing. When you get down into equipment, let's see, he would like to update the middle and high school with TV screens in the cafeteria, and new point of sale stations are also included in this. Large equipment includes 25,000 for a combi oven at the Hanson School, 2,500 for a new serving line at Hanson, 2,500, let's see, where's my list? 2,500 for a new serving line in North Berwick at the elementary school. And the high school is looking at an $8,000 ice machine.
What the TVs be used for?
I think they are there to, I assume, to help with like menus, and if there are, you know how they do like that chili taste off and thing, you know, different things like that. I assume it's a combination of menu and promotion about things that are coming. So then there's a decrease in the small wares he's asking for. Those usually are meat slicers, a Vitamix, a blender, those smaller things that they need in the kitchens that don't qualify as a large piece of equipment. We have some memberships and fees, kitchen licenses, and a very modest increase for the year. And again, these expenses don't combine with the district budget. They stand alone and they're in their own fund. Down below those expenses, you see the revenue categories. And he has a very complicated calculation and estimates for these numbers. So I don't know all the details, but you can see there's slight decreases in estimates for subsidy and for student and adult a la carte sales. He is looking at a little bit of an increase, $2,500 for more catering. So if somebody's having a meeting in the building, they can arrange with food service to bring coffee and muffins and things like that. He is increasing his bank interest. We have a robust interest rate currently, and he's thinking he can support another $10,000 in that area. And then again, fund balance. So that's part of revenue, right? It offsets the expenses because we've already collected it. And so you see on his $2.4 million budget, the increase is $24,000 and change. The other thing that happened, so we have this separate fund for school nutrition. We also, in the district budget, historically, in category 11, which is other, we had a $25,000 contingency for school nutrition. Again, it got started back when school nutrition wasn't able to kind of cover their own expenses. And we think at this point, we've had enough years of not using it that we can take it out of the local budget. And if we get to a point where school nutrition is cutting it close and may not have the funds to replace a combi oven or something mid-year, we can take a look at putting that back in. But I think at this point, it's a safe bet to take that out.
Any questions on school nutrition? Okay, so now revenue, tab 20.
Okay. Okay. So this sheet allows me to, in the top line, have the proposed budget, whatever budget we think we're at. So this one that we proposed first round was 52,465,000 in expenses. And then the next part identifies sources of revenue that help to pay for that $52 million budget. The first line is our state subsidy. That's the ED 279 that we get, and that calculates again the state's idea of the basics for education. Last year, we had some subsidy as we had to do higher hourly wages for our staff. That was where they put through the law where ed techs have to be 125% of minimum wage, I think, and all other hourly staff have to be 115. I think those are the numbers. And so what they did for 1 year is they gave us a little bit of extra money till we could budget for it again ourselves. So that's not repeating in fiscal 27. The next line is high cost out of district placements. So when in a special education, when we have students that are placed outside in a program based on their IEP, it costs money. For a couple years, we were down, I think, to 2 students, but they required long-term. They were going to be going to that school for a number of years. So what the state does is state tries to put into the ED 279 an estimate for what they think you will have the coming year. And so what they estimate right now, I think, is just the 2 students. So if you look on I believe it's on page 3 at the top, that's where it'll tell you how much they're giving us in advance, basically, for the year. What we did is we said, well, we know we have 7 students. If they meet a certain tuition level, then the state kicks in extra to help us offset that. And so this is the amount we estimate we will receive in addition to the amount they already gave us in the ED 270. And Jerry, that's the ED 279. It's page 3 of that big colorful.
Oh, that,
spreadsheet.
okay, because I'm like,
There's only one page here.
Need to panic.
We can show you that later. The next line, again, is the fund balance. That is the fund balance that we are proposing to cover the 5-year plan projects. And we can, again, talk about that in more detail later, but you'll see that in the fund balance that we discussed just previously. And that is the number that correlates to that 5-year plan. The next thing is we had been talking about modular classrooms for Hanson School for a year or 2, I believe. And the state has a program for leased space, and you are allowed a one-time award, I guess I will call it, where if you have not used it before, for up to 5 years, the department will pay you $10 a square foot if you can prove to them that you need these additional spaces. So what we would do is we'd have to answer questions about staffing. We'd have to answer questions about enrollment and how many spaces we have and what we need. And so this is my estimate, $14,400 for 2 modular units. And 7,200, they're 720 square feet each, times the 10 times 2. So I think that's to offset some of that expense. If we decide not to do the modulars, then I would need to take that out. We have the same amount budgeted for sports activity fees at 60,000. The miscellaneous revenue is going up by about 12,000. Miscellaneous revenue are all the things we receive that really either we can't count on them consistently, or we don't know how much. There's not something we can use to estimate them. It would be the sale of a bus when Jeremiah takes it to the scrapyard. It would be a donation. It would be a refund of some kind. We've had instances where, we've had workers' comp refunds that are from 5 years ago. And it's not a lot of money, but they must be closing out and finalizing whatever year that is. So there are various things we get refunds, money for. In addition, this year, we are going to look at the food pantry in North Berwick to see if they can contribute a little bit to the running of that building. So that's why there's an increase. And historically, over time, that 30,000 has been pretty roughly good. Let's see. MHA student tuition. So in fiscal 26, we budgeted for 1 tuition student into Mary Hart Academy. And for fiscal 27, we're budgeting 2. We have 2 students that we believe will return for fiscal 27. We have bank interest of 140,000. We will receive more than that this year, but again, I don't want to rely on it and keep increasing it every year, because I don't want to get too close to that point where we're going to go into the negative, where rates go down and things like that. Our interest rate is tied to the T-bill. And since we've done that, when we started, and this was many, many years ago, but we were just getting bank interest, and we probably collected $3,000 a month in interest. We right now can range, depending on how much is there, anywhere from $12,000 to $17,000 a month in interest, based on how we have it set up with our bank. So it's a very robust arrangement, and they're very good to work with. So we hope that continues for a long time. And then we have $3,000 for national board certification. We have an instructional staff member who is nationally certified in their area, and the state sends them a bonus, basically, of $3,000 for being nationally certified, because it's a very big process. It's a very big application, and there's lots to it. And then what we do is we get that $3,000 and then we pay it to the teacher. But it has to come through us in order for that to get paid. So all of that revenue amounts to $23,455,000. All of that miscellaneous revenue. The amount to taxpayers would go to 29 million and change. The other important thing to break out here is the expenditures are increasing by 5.15. The school portion of the budget is increasing 9.82. And then below that, when you factor in both the contribution for adult education, the amount contributed for everything is 9.86. Again, preliminary draft. We haven't gone back to change and modify things as discussed in these meetings. So this was just our best first draft. I did do the estimated cost to taxpayers on $100,000. And you guys wanted to hear those numbers. Again, very preliminary.
I'm going to swap out your microphone.
Was it not working?
It's scratching.
Like underwater. Sounds underwater.
I hope it's not me.
No.
Ask you a question?
Yeah.
Where do we see the additional amount used to reduce taxpayer burden from school nutrition and adult ed?
So let's You would have to go to their individual budget.
Okay, so that's where that's gonna show up.
Yes.
Thank you.
So again, at this point, $100,000 valuation in Berwick, I have $99.56. To Lebanon, I have 91.72. And for North Berwick, I have 60.52. Those are estimates based on the sharing of, the calculation, the local distributive calculation, which takes half of the rate from how many students you have compared to the other towns, and half the rate based on your valuation as part of the total. You get an average, and that's how we approach those.
Denise, can you do those again, please?
Yes, Berwick at 99.56. Lebanon, 91.72. And North Berwick, 60.52.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On $100,000, yes.
That's annual.
So that's
So if you had a $300,000 house, take your town's number, multiply it by 3, approximately.
right.
Set in
because-
stone.
Yes, don't get Dwayne mad at me. I'm
Yes.
kidding. Dwayne explained to me how, when we say this, then people get their property tax bills and it doesn't match. There is always some layer of, that's not what I was
All
told.
that stuff, yeah.
So you still have to take into account the town increases and other things. So, that's an approximation.
This is just an addition to what the town comes up with, but to what they need.
Right, so
School
each
need-
town would have, I believe, a town budget as well as the school amount. So you add those together to come up with what they're gonna assess. You're welcome.
So we want to talk about staffing because that came up a lot. However, it probably makes sense to look at this revenue sheet and look at the impact to taxpayers right now as a jumping off point. Just start talking about that, where you're landing with that, and then that could give us some guidance as we're going through some of those conversations that are coming up.
So last year, the 6.71, that was what we increased last year. Right. If I looked at that form, it increased last year by 6.7.
Yes, last year expenses went up by 1.15% and the school portion went up 6.71.
I think of my question. So if we want to raise the taxes, we don't want to raise the taxes, but let's say 6% versus 9%. How much do we need? How much do we need to cut?
Good question. Let me just. So finding $1 million will bring it to 6.03.
What does that do to expenses?
3.15.
Just for giggles. 0% increase to expenses.
2.6 million in savings would be negative 0.06.
Okay.
2.5 would be 0.14. So somewhere in that.
I asked, Denise, is there any chance, I know you're really busy, but could you give us a spreadsheet before the next meeting of what was just talked about so that we could actually see, we need to reduce by this much to get here, we need to reduce by this much to get here. So we really know where we're driving, because I can't keep that in my head.
Absolutely. And so you just want to know how much we'd need to decrease the budget in order to get to
Yeah.
a certain
A real simple,
percent.
yeah,
Absolutely.
really simple, and maybe the number,
Mhm.
the actual cost, so we, percentages and actual
Yes.
numbers are
Okay. Yep, absolutely.
really simple, like
Mhm.
it's your magic. I just can't keep it in my head.
Would you also be the bond guru?
I'm sorry?
Would you also be the bond guru?
Maybe. Throw it out. Let me know.
I'd like to know how many outstanding bonds there are.
Okay, so that is going to be in your facilities and maintenance tab.
Okay, which tab is it?
I'm going to rely on you guys to tell me what.
8 or 9?
Yeah, I believe it is, number 8.
And I'm sure it's on the second page of the expenses when you get there. There's a section called dues, fees, and bond repayment. So we recently paid off a QSCB bond, which was back from 2009, 10, and 11. I think we had those bonds, and those were finally paid off in fiscal 26. Right now on the books, we are paying back almost $69,000 for the 2020 SRRF, which puts sprinkler systems into the elementary schools.
Okay.
We're starting the repayment of the 2024 SRRF renovation bond. That was all the air quality and HVAC work. We have the additionally 2024, which was that $8 or $9 million bond through Bank of America that we're repaying at $777,000 a year. And then we have the overage for the Knowlton School, which is starting repayment in full at $49,000. And you can see there, I hope it printed, the end dates for those.
Some of them are off.
Some of them, are- yeah.
The 2024 SRRF renovation for the ventilation air grade.
That ends in fiscal 36.
And the one before that, the sprinkler system.
The sprinklers end in fiscal 32, which sounds a long ways away, but it's not as much as it used to be. The 2024, again, is fiscal 39. And then we have fiscal 36 for the Knowlton overage one. So that's, $1 million a year we're investing in our facilities.
Were these all 20-year bonds?
12 to 15.
Yes, I don't believe, the one.
Okay.
The Knowlton one again was 10. As is the 2024. I think 15 was the sprinkler systems. I think that was a 15. And I believe that HVAC bonds with Bank of America are 15 as well.
So is there something here that tells me exactly how much was borrowed and the interest rate? I know we've talked about some of these, but
you do not have a document other than this document.
okay.
What would you like to see?
I'd like to see the duration,
Okay.
so 12, 15 years, whichever it is. The monthly and you pay it annually?
Yes.
We-
You
okay.
will usually, sometimes like the 777 is twice a year.
Okay.
Um,
So I'd like to know what the payment method is, the percentage of the bond, that percentage rate of
Okay.
the bond. And that money for each one of the bonds in interest, what that's going to cost us over the,
So what I
Okay.
probably will do is get you a copy of the amortization schedules. It tells you when the payments are due, what's principal, what's interest, and then the bottom line for the duration of the bond.
that would be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. It's hard. Like you look at it and you go, where do I start, right?
Mhm.
There's about 45 minutes left of this workshop. We can start talking about some of the staffing conversations that we wanted to start with, even though we had a starting conversation about the percentage to taxpayers. But we're coming up with that spreadsheet to kind of go through what that would look like and how much more we would need to adjust the budget for that. So is it premature, like, this is the question for you, I want to spend time, efficiently here. Does it make sense to talk about staffing? When you don't have a kind of a figure right now as far as where you want to land with that? Like, is this a good time to have a preliminary conversation about staffing and get some questions and concerns out there and have discussion? And then we can, finish that up next time as well. So I think it's going to take a longer time than 45 minutes necessarily. But if there's another way you want to spend this 45 minutes, we have like 3 more meetings. Right? Two meetings.
And then we have to decide and sign off on the third meeting.
Wonder if it makes sense to talk about NIS since they are going under a big change and we do have some staff members concerned about that. And so maybe it would be helpful to have that conversation first. I don't know what other people think, but
I agree. I'd like to have the whole staffing conversation first. I mean, it's great to pick a number, but to pick a number and then go through
And
it,
not have any.
Right.
no contest,
Mhm.
really.
Here comes Mike. Here's Mike.
Seven. 27. Thank you. There.
Is there an electronic version of this anywhere, like a PDF or something online?
It's online.
On the
Yes.
website.
Mhm. So Mike, could you just recap your conversation with us on Saturday, talking about some of those changes? And if there are questions that come forward, we'll go through that.
This is on.
No, it's up. I got you.
So the cuts at Noble Intermediate School, the 1 6th grade teacher, physical education teacher, health teacher, an administrative assistant, behavior interventionist, an intervention coordinator, and then an unfilled restorative justice facilitator, ed tech.
Could you repeat those?
A little slower.
Sure. 6th grade,
I can pass this document out. This document that's coming out
You're covered.
is all position adjustments.
Okay.
And we will have AJ come up and talk about something that just as a part 2 of his conversation, but we'll focus on the intermediate school right now.
And again, this is all preliminary stuff, so.
I guess like with the positions, there's been like the restructuring of it, I guess is, I'm curious because now sixth grade is teams. So we wanted to go back to like a fifth grade and how is that going to work? And are the teachers in charge of like every subject, like a fifth grade?
Elementary model.
Right, so the vision is that pre-K to 6 elementary model. However, I think within that model, there's room to adjust. So that means that I talked with some 6th grade staff today, and we're really kind of trying to gather some ideas on what that could look like. So we're going from 10 to 9. 10 is a nice round number. Block scheduling works that way. It also creates a really complicated schedule. Going to 9, I'm just going to throw a couple random ideas. Don't hold me to any of them, but you could have a 5-person team and a 4-person team, and you could have, the reading, writing, math, science, social studies on 1-5, and then on the 4, you could have like a writing, math, science, social studies, and then everybody teaches reading to their homeroom type of thing. You could run situations where you have 3-person teams where you have like a math, writing, reading. And so then they do 3 sections of math. If you're the math person, if you're the reading person, 3 sections of reading, so on and so forth. And then that 4th block, you have your homeroom. And then for maybe you could do some sort of version where like one semester you do social studies and the second semester you do science, or maybe the whole day is kind of focused around those things. So there's a wide variety of things that make it so that it doesn't need to be like a 1st grade self-contained classroom. And I think that's really important. And also I would say at this stage of the game, I don't want to lock us into any one of those things, because it's really important that the teachers have some voice and choice and to be able to kind of chew on that. I think that's why we've been really successful this year, is teachers had a ton of ownership in what we look like. And it's working. And so I want to make sure that we continue that. And I understand that it would be really helpful if I could tell you exactly what it'll look like, but I can tell you that even with, like, there's no doubt that we can open the doors in the fall with that staffing number. With any of those ideas, it will work to open the school.
So a lot of the districts around us are on the secondary school model, not the elementary school. So is that going to put our 6th graders at a disadvantage as they go into middle school or into intermediate school?
I think that you could make an argument either way.
Mhm.
And so I think that however we run, if we ran the 5 and the 4s or the 3 and 3 sets of 3, that will allow students to transition to go and sit and listen to another style of a teacher, to be able to kind of get up and navigate the school. So there is some level of changing classes in both of those models. So outside of, and academically, I don't think it puts us at a disadvantage. I think that, of course, to say that social studies can be done in 1 semester compared to right now a full year, of course, there is some level of a loss there, but reading, writing, and math, I think is one of those are the skills that allow science and social studies to be accessible down the road. And also those are the things when we're measuring, I think that it will support. So I don't know if I answered well, but
Yep. You did, thank you.
You have an increase in enrollment, a significant, and this still works.
it works.
I think the area of concern, I think that we would say, when we look at supports across the district, is intervention at Noble Intermediate School, because when we reconfigured, we did move some Title I up here, but it was minimal compared to what K4 saw as increasing. So I think that would be a piece that it was a harder, decision. And I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think that is something that your staff would say is also an area of concern.
Yes, that is the area. So one of the things, when the strategy, when you make these cuts, so we're sitting here, we understand that we have a responsibility to our community to navigate the tax situation and also to put a school out there that can do what it's supposed to do. So when you sit there and you try to imagine a school and you look at your resources, you need to put people in. When kids walk through the door, they go to their classroom, there needs to be that person there. That is your sort of first line where you don't cut. The people who are still very much facing students that are the intervention teachers, those people who will pull students out who are struggling a little bit, maybe need those interventions. Those are the places when you're in these situations that you go, that's where you can cut because they just don't pull those students out. And I'm not saying that I want to cut those positions. I really don't. But also we know that we need to get to a place with the budget that is something that the public can swallow. So that's the battle. And we all, like the community and the schools, need to meet somewhere in the middle and give. And I think that was a challenge when our administration sat down and said, like, imagine your schools and how can you get us to where we need to go? And through those conversations, we know that we have to cut staff and this is how we can get there. So I would say that the two intervention folks, so the behavior and intervention coordinator, really, really important. If, those are things that, boy, if we could put some things back in, those would be my priority because we're screaming for intervention. It's really important. Families are like, who's helping my kid? And teachers are like, who's helping this kid? And so I would tell you that. But I also understand where we are with the budget and we can open in the fall.
What kind of role does an intervention specialist play in bullying behavior? Or, I think part of when we put those positions in place, it was to deal with a bullying problem.
And so we track our data. We do weekly and we do monthly and then obviously yearly. And so since we've added those, at the time it was 3 positions, there was essentially a coach and then 2 behavior interventionists. And at the time that we added those in, our school already had 2 behavior interventionist folks. And so there was a time when we went to 4. And so right now with a cut, we're at 1. And so I will say that the 2 folks that we have right now, world-class, and what the systems that they have put in place, our data is incredible. Like we're talking about some weeks are like, and we track the weeks longitudinally so we can see the same week of the school year vertically, and every single data point is lower and it's not even close. It's massively lower, like sometimes 1/10 of what it was 2 years ago for suspension incidents, overall just behavior referrals, which are just a write-up that could be a major or a minor. Our attendance is better, truancy is down, chronic absenteeism is down. And so the role that what those roles play is that, and what they're able to do right now is when they first came on, they were operating in sort of those red orange kids, like kids who are really, really struggling that you were hearing about. And now with their proactive stuff, the systems that they're putting in place, a lot of it is prevention. And so there's still kids who need some of that, like direct stuff and daily. Every single day they're working directly with students, but their systems have been unbelievable as far as the change in our school, in our hallways, cafeteria, outside at wellness. It really is remarkable. And I think if you talk to anybody who has been in that building for more than just this year, and even definitely this year, but if people who have seen it, they would say it's a completely different school. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but certainly these 2 people are really important to that.
Not in favor of cutting those positions.
No.
Is there data to show those students that they're working with that those interventions are improving their grades? Like, is it positively affecting their schoolwork,
Or,
The data,
I don't, not to interrupt, but I would also,
the ones around them?
Yeah, is it not as straightforward as that? Yeah.
not as straightforward, it's just them. Yeah, that's, and the other piece I'll add, and I don't.
No, you're fine.
Is what the benefit of that is going forward for them and the behaviors that they are learning, the coping mechanisms they're learning for the schools that they'll then go to. It's hard to measure, but
What do you,
I would tell you that exactly what you just said, the impact to the rest of the school. And I won't tell you that there's nothing. There's not days that go by that we're not, working with students and kind of just sifting through and helping kids kind of get it back together, work through some stuff. But it's incredible the work that they've done. And so the measurement, not necessarily individual students, but as a collective group, the data is staggering.
Well, and I think unless you've actually been in the classroom and seen how those interventionists work, it's hard to understand how valuable they are. But I've seen it firsthand, so I'm with Peg that those would be, at least one of them, would be a position that I would find difficult to cut because I do think it directly affects students and their learning. Go ahead, sorry, Nancy.
That's all right. I just wanted to say that we're not really comparing. I think that, you've done, it sounds like everything's going really well. I won't take anything away from what you're doing, but you're also comparing seventh graders to sixth graders. And there's a world difference between seventh graders and sixth graders.
We've compared sixth grade to sixth grade. So I agree with you on that. And so that's one of the things that I want to know as well, because I don't disagree with you.
I don't have the data, so I don't know.
But when you look at sixth grade to sixth grade, it's remarkable.
Good.
is the social worker on this list the behavior person?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you take what you've learned this year and apply it without the interventionist?
So I'll tell you, we've learned a ton. When these people have jobs that some of the things that they're doing are not necessarily going to be able to be covered in other places. And I'm not going to tell you that our school is going to fall apart because it's not. Our team is incredible. They're top notch, but to say that, their job is done and, things are that also isn't true. And so I wouldn't say that you can take somebody away and say, they fixed the situation and it's completely done.
No, that's not what I was saying. I was just thinking of the teachers, were the teachers able to acquire some of the skills of
100%.
implemented in the classroom rather than in the intervention program? That's what I was asking.
Yes, the answer is yes.
I think the concern for me, Nancy, is though, how do they do that at the same time we want them to have an increased focus on improving academic skill? It feels to me like a step backwards to, okay, now we have to have teachers go back to managing these behaviors. Because new students coming in haven't had the benefit of this, so they really are going to have to implement whatever those processes were themselves. And that,
I hear it. I'm just wondering, we've got PBIS in all of the schools, which is teaching behavior. My fourth grade I've been in that school. I know what they're sending up. I mean, so again, we should be getting better behaved. We've got stuff in place and have put in place that should be showing improvements. And I think that we are seeing them. And I agree with you. If we could have everything we could have, then it would be wonderful, but you want 9% tax increase is looking a little tough right now. So I appreciate what you've done. I really do. But I do because I do know.
it's a combination for me too of that big of an increase in your population and the number of cuts you're making compared to other schools that are potentially seeing a decrease.
And the thing is knowing who's coming in, other than the random ones that we know who we're getting from from Knowlton. And so that you'll know the percentage of students that you need to keep an eye on in this area. And my understanding is it's fairly large. That's
That I don't know, but just in general, your numbers are
I
good.
have a fifth grader. I sat at the meeting and I left and I said, I'm gonna have fifth and sixth grader next year. Like, I need to know more. So I did meet with Mike and Audra and Sue were there today because I was like, I need to wrap my head around this before I could support any of this. Because as a parent, like that's the weird, awkward board parent hat, I was not thrilled. Concerned. Thank you.
I want
Good
to
word.
say,
So one of my questions is, with all of this, I definitely feel a lot better, obviously, until it's implemented. Who knows what this will actually look at? One of my questions was looking at the population coming up from Knowlton, and to second that, 100%, Michelle and Elise have done a fabulous job. You go into that school, that had the fourth grade, that is one of the benefits, I think, of the fourth grade coming together this year, is everyone's coming together at once. They're getting the same expectations, the same everything, all even playing field. And I think that's done wonders. And so I think that coming in is a benefit and will hopefully help. But I don't recall hearing or seeing any reductions to like ed techs, interventionists, anything at Knowlton. And I'm wondering with that giant chunk of students, like a massive reduction in their population and massive growth in your population, if that's worth looking at to see if moving, like, does it make sense, either move or keep or whoever's, you know, whoever they're at on the totem pole.
We need to know
But
about our third grade.
Thank you.
yeah.
Point I was trying to make, so thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
You've got an increase and yeah, where is that balance?
you can go, if you can get in.
So at this point, you have two interventionists, right?
So I have two behavior interventionists and I have two academic interventionists and one academic intervention at tech.
Okay, and you're looking at reducing by one interventionist coordinator?
Each. So that coordinator position is somebody who's also doing interventions, but she just sort of quarterbacks the other interventions.
So she quarterbacks and does intervention.
Correct.
Okay, so, but you're still gonna have one
Yes.
person, okay, plus the other
Plus so we'd have
academic interventionists and,
ed tech. So one academic intervention teacher,
Mhm.
one academic intervention ed tech,
Mhm.
and then one behavior intervention. That's what is in the proposed budget.
My turn.
all right.
A couple
can have
years
it.
ago, I don't think I was even on the board. Hugh proposed some real serious cuts and nobody thought it was going to work. And you managed to pull it off. So if you can do that with the seventh graders, that, I'm sorry, but what you were proposing, my eyebrows went right up. It's like, whoa. So my hat's off to you. Make it happen. I got it.
But we didn't actually do that. The taxpayers put money back and we did something very different.
I don't think in his, I think, yes, we did. They
Yeah.
gave you some money to do it and
Yeah.
you pulled it off. I still didn't think you could. But you did. So I'm giving you
Mess with
credit.
it.
Move forward. I don't say that very often, you know.
The behavior coordinator, does she have a different position that she'll be moving to in the district?
Yes.
We're not losing anybody. I mean, we're not cutting a position, we're just moving it around.
Move that one around, yes. And also, just for full disclosure, there are two school counselors here. And there will be two school counselors. The proposal is to keep two school counselors in this bill.
NIS, yeah.
NIS.
Not this.
Sorry.
Mike, can I give you a homework assignment? Could you do a visual for us so that we could look at the before and after of what has happened in your school since you implemented this program?
And when you say that, are you looking for, like, when I told you behavior and things like that, are you looking for that piece? Or are you looking for staff numbers?
I'm looking for behavior.
I 100% can do that.
That'd be great. Thank you. That would be really helpful.
And you'd like it for next week, right? Since we
I
have,
would.
we have.
Yes.
Yes, we have a few meetings. So, okay.
Thank you.
It is super exciting and I hate to have that be overshadowed by the budget, but it's super cool that that's gone so well. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm amazed at just in social media and what comes into our email box, the complaints about bullying at your level. It's
Night and day.
yeah, night and day. I haven't seen any in the last
Yeah.
6 months.
And I don't want to,
Right. And again, there's the work we do every single day.
Yes.
So it's not perfect, but we're getting there.
But yeah, we're making progress.
That's right.
So what's the fifth grade look like?
Fifth grade. So currently this year, we have 10 classroom teachers. We will have 12 classroom teachers in fifth grade next year.
Mirroring what currently is happening at Knowlton.
Correct.
12 sections.
I was wondering about do they self-contain one teacher per, or do they float around, or do they?
So they self-contain and they flex. So for literacy block, they flex. And so that
But
self-contained.
the self-contained regular classroom teacher teaches all subjects,
Correct.
with the exception of the interventions that they flex on.
Correct.
Curious.
So of these roles that are being reduced, how many are being repurposed?
In other buildings.
Yeah.
Well, we have one, the position for the Ed Tech 2, that was the restorative justice, that used to be planning room. That is unfilled. So that position, right. So, one,
Yeah, that's a reduction that.
right. So maybe potentially 2 would not currently have a position.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they won't have a position, because we know that things are opening up.
Okay. So everybody else is being repurposed at this point.
Moving into, for instance, well, no, honestly, because there's like, I'm trying to think of who we've got here. Yeah, so yeah, the PE position will be a RIF.
Okay.
So, and it will impact not necessarily the person at NIS, but somebody else in the district.
Mhm.
So that's one of
Yeah.
those 2.
And then they're looking at, and the grades, the grade 6 is a reduction as well.
A bit off topic. Denise, can I ask you, I've been watching today all of the reaction to everybody trying to do their budgets and talking about how many staff are going to be lost in different districts. Do you think there's any potential response to that for this budget year?
Not quite sure what you're asking.
There is I mean, districts are, I've looked at 2 today that are going to be losing over 100 staff members.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So is there any potential that something happens in this budget to fix that? I mean, it's devastating. We are far from alone in these
Correct.
conversations. So, and it looks like some districts are way worse off and really losing
Just over
And
the
the
border. New Hampshire's really
unsustainable
in trouble.
number of people. So, I mean, is there any vehicle by which this gets adjusted before?
When we went to the, when we
Yeah,
went to the
I know, it's
meeting, the workshop for the 279, it
No.
doesn't sound like they
No,
were,
but-
they were well aware and are well aware about what the challenges with staffing.
Right.
And they just,
It's discouraging.
It is discouraging. There's no question about that.
ways it feels like you're just pulling apart.
You're taking it apart.
Yes,
Yeah. Taking apart
yes.
the education for students.
And the long-term forecast isn't better. So it's like, it's a consistent taking away, which is what is, it's difficult.
What's your estimated staff reduction? I see, some up and down add-on, just a.
Are you talking about?
We're talking about it.
You're talking
Yeah.
about the bigger picture of the whole budget or?
You're talking about this whole document.
Yeah.
Mr. A, how many custodians do you currently have?
I think question, we just hired our 6th custodian, so been running with 5 this year. And so that was a reduction of a custodian, I believe, in this current, like today, this year's budget. And so right now, today, we have 6.
And you're asking for another one.
That is the 6.
That is the sixth.
That's yeah, because we've never been fully staffed this year. So we've had to move some things around, so
So
we want it to be
six custodians at
specifically
that
here.
school is
Yeah.
the recommended.
Yes.
Audra, I can do that.
And we're,
got it.
we're going
I'll
through
go
it.
for it. You guys keep talking, but I can play it out.
We were both gonna do it just to double check our numbers as we were going through it. but-
Yeah.
Hi, it's quiet. I have a question that has nothing to do with this, or this is just in my head. Are you able to fit the 4th grade in your building?
Right now, no. It's one of those things, and that question has been kind of, people brought it up and asked about it, and I'm not somebody who is really good at visualizing a space and seeing walls put up or removed and what that looks like. And so I'm not really the person to ask. Currently, right now, with the classroom space, not a chance, not even close.
I think it had high school, but then when the high school was there, it had the trailer, you know, it had the.
Yeah, and
benches and-
one of the things that's different, so not all our classroom sizes are equal. And so that actually is really challenging. So if you have a group of 20 students in one classroom, we call them medium classrooms, and it's a decent sized classroom, but it's pretty tight with 20. And then there are other classrooms, science classrooms specifically, are much bigger than that. And so one of the projects that's in the budget is to modify some of those larger classrooms to shrink them down a little bit, and then to make those smaller classrooms more typical size, which is one of the reasons, like with the 12 classrooms coming up, or so the additional 2, it's important. So right now, as is, no way could we add a third?
Okay. I was just thinking
Great question.
long term, yeah.
You have other questions for Mike?
Not tonight.
Out of the hot
But we
seat.
do have homework. We have it written down.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm gonna ask AJ to come up and just do part 2 of his discussion on staffing. AJ, I'm gonna give you the document. Just so you can see where everybody's looking. Yep.
Right, so I think, although not necessarily budget implications directly due to number of staff, I think it's just important to kind of talk about what we're thinking, vision, especially around middle school. Because, with us bringing on grade 7, prior to this past year, grade 8 was truly an extension of our high school. We thought of ourselves as a 8 through 12 high school. Grade 8 ran the same bell schedule. So this year, bringing on grade 7, completely different bell schedule for grade 7 and 8. We're truly running 2 schools within the school. And by and large, it's been really, really positive, but there are obviously changes coming our way. And a big one of those changes is around the ELA curriculum and the work that's happening with that group and looking at a new curriculum. So with the curriculum piece in mind, with our existing staffing, I think it's important to note that this year we ran a schedule in grade 7 and 8 where we had reading and writing completely separated as 2 separate courses. And we had one individual who left teaching early on in the school year. We had another individual with some medical things that forced them to step away. So we have, had 2 awesome, one was a retired teacher. We brought a person from a nearby district back to our district, which was a huge positive, but they we were piecemealing sort of that writing all year long. So staffing pieces, curriculum needs that are coming right around the corner. And Dr. Swiger can probably speak to this a little better than I can, but certainly the prevailing thoughts are having reading and writing integrated, the same teacher teaching them to the group of students is going to give us the best outcomes. So that's a secondary piece. And then the third piece with it is one of the pieces we have noticed this year with our schedule is 7 distinct periods in the day, lunch, a short homeroom block. Students are transitioning a ton from place to place to place to place. So kind of looking at all 3 of those, we have an opportunity to go with one less period next year. So go from what we would call a 7-period day to a 6-period day, which will make all the periods longer, getting extra time for math, extra time for science, which is also really important. We're going to be able to keep writing, but we're just going to move it into like a global format. So we're still going to have a dedicated writing time for our students. And that will allow us to have the single teacher who, maybe was either the reading or writing teacher doing ELA, teaching both reading and writing in the classroom. And what that will allow us to do, so that would be, we have 4 writing teachers currently. One of them would continue to be the writing teacher, teaching writing to grade 7 and 8, sort of in that global format. The other 3, so just really quick and not too, but we purposefully, thinking about the budget, thinking about our needs, we moved our high school health teacher this year to the middle school as part of knowing that with grade 7 coming into our building, we were going to teach health, thinking long-term to grade 7, 8, and 10. So 3 of the 4 years, we're going to have 3 years of health. We want those 3 years, 7, 8, and 10 consciously to be that chunk where we taught that. So we had a group of 9th graders this year with that in mind that didn't need help. So we moved her to the middle school. Well, now this year is almost over. Now we're in the next year. We need to teach health to 10th graders, and we're also going to need to teach health to middle schoolers. So we are going to need a health teacher. The other piece that we are going to need is we have, with our 1,275 students, we have just our band and chorus teacher for all 1,275. So we have 2 music folks for our building. Having a general music, and we had played around with what that could look like even coming into this past year, having a general music opportunity for middle schoolers is really, really important. That is something that I feel like we've missed this year. So this will allow us to have students have the option to take general music if they're, if they're not a band or chorus student, choosing that pathway. And then the third thing we have noticed, and I think this came up as part of Mr. Archambault's, is we historically, with being an 8 through 12 high school, had not very minimal math lab, lit lab intervention supports for regular education students. Like that has not been something we've had a lot of. But having 7th and 8th grade in our building, that is something we absolutely need. So this would also allow us to have one person who can be that math lab, lit lab person. And so that would allow us, I think, to give us the best opportunity to service those middle school students moving forward. I think we're gonna be able to put together, again, that little tweak, I think is gonna make it even better for them. So we're excited about that. And then the last piece you'll see I spoke about on Saturday, but certainly we currently have a middle school alt ed individual who is retiring this year. And so being able to use the really positive work we've had with our attendant social worker, I would say the one downside that I've noticed is her interacting with students in, say, grades 9, 10, and 11. I think, and I'll take the blame for any part of this that wasn't perfect, was that grades, 10 and 11, we were like, have her work with students who are operating on earning credits. And I stand by it, seemed like a really good idea at the time, but we're having much more impact with our youngest students, which I would argue also makes a ton of sense. So having her really closely working with those 7th and 8th grade families, in addition to being the 7th and 8th grade support person and go-to person, in sort of that, I'll call it a modified alt ed setting. That'll be a go-to person and also someone that'll be working closely with the families for attendance. So I think those are 2 positions that can really easily go together and really support students well in that regard. So I think that it makes a lot of sense. And that, again, all of these pieces kind of come out to be a wash from the budget perspective for our building.
But we wanted to just share that information just as,
Absolutely.
any questions? AJ? Thank you.
Question in general, with this year, Knowlton's class load being smaller and them having a specific band chorus teacher, do we have any idea what those numbers look like? And if she has any capacity, and I don't know her certificate, or any flexibility within the music teachers to help fulfill some of the music role you're looking for, either part-time to spread, like, I have no idea the capacity, but just have we, knowing that there's a massive band chorus there now that she's, and she might be over capacity now, I don't know. So next year might be a normal year for her, but I would like more information.
We've talked a little bit about it. Michelle, do you want to talk just a little bit about it? But then we can talk about how that would relate to the high school, because some of their blocks, the scheduling is a little trickier at the high school, the middle high school level. Just as first blush.
We looked at the numbers this week, and I think you're like 130 for band, 2 or 125 for chorus right now. It's hard to say what those numbers will look like. It's an opportunity for everyone, so if you have 188 kids, could it be the same? Perhaps. We do currently have general music for everyone. So we're doing those shared positions with North Berwick. Looking at our next year's schedule right now, we have people who do 2.5 days. So they split that one of their work days, which I think is a difficult situation. Next year, going down to 188, we'll be able to do 2 days at, or 192, whatever it is, 8 classes. 2 days at Knowlton, 3 days at North Berwick, which I think is going to be, that's going to be very, very helpful. I think as far as running the band and chorus for that many kids, could it be done in less? Perhaps. I don't think it couldn't be done in half that. I wouldn't assume, but there's probably some wiggle room there. It's kind of like you have the sectionals and how many kids who've never held a flute do you want to have in the same room together? So not a great answer, but
And so, thank you, Michelle. The other thing that we've had some difficulty with when we've tried to share some positions with, when it was when high school, we were looking at that. Can you talk a little bit about, based on the schedules, what that does?
Yeah, I think one of the tricky parts just is we're the only 740 to 220 or 225, depending on the school, dismissal sort of, so that complicates because what schedule is sort of a person working on. I think it's hard. And I think to what Michelle said, I think one of the advantages, our music numbers across 6th grades are huge, but thankful to the folks at Elks and the intermediate school, by and large, almost all of the students have held the instrument before, have operated in those settings. And I think the nice part that they're able to do, and we do a little bit less of, because students are more experienced, but they're able to run like the sectionals and get students some small group instruction and then that. And so there's less of a need when students get to our level for that. So I think those two pieces complicate it a little bit. And I think one of the pieces for us, we're really excited about the possibility of, and again, one of the pieces that's important to me is if we're going to offer something and sort of be like, hey, this is important, we want to be able to have the capacity to offer it to everyone, because that's the hardest part of like, oh geez, my kid's really excited about that. Yeah, well, we only have 4 sections, and in order for your kiddo to get in there, we'd need 6 sections, and we don't have 6 sections. So I think that is one of those pieces as part of like a core middle school experience, having some music, some interaction with music is really important, if you're not a band or chorus kiddo. And so I think being able to do that, and I think even kind of looking at our numbers and it shakes out, it would still be a you know, again, depending how you shake it out, if you want to consider our band and chorus folks, both sort of high school music folks, that would still give us like just one person working across the middle school. And I know it's not that clean because we have our pieces working across sort of both schools, if you will. But I think it still keeps us really in line with what makes sense.
Can that be a stipend position?
I think, you know, so what we're hoping for with that general music is a student would have an experience each year of, say, 9 full weeks every single day of general music. So I think that would be hard over the course of, you know, in our middle school next year, we'll have about 400 students. So I think that's, you know, we're gonna have it'll be a full-time gig for someone to see all of those students across that schedule.
But we like all those ideas.
Absolutely, yes,
You know,
absolutely.
Those ideas, because that's what we.
The stipend's a little bit cheaper than like, something you don't have the extra benefits and stuff. And I'm sure there's musical teachers that don't teach music, you know? I mean, the school's filled with talented people, so I just thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did the calculations
Thank
so
you.
that all of this adjustments, it's one teaching position down. It's like with all the movements and all that, it's one teaching position down. 5.6 ed techs up, and really those are the pre-K techs that are already working for us that we just need to move into the budget. Down 1.1 admin, that would be the assistant principal pieces that we talked about, and additional custodian. So when I say the teaching piece, I just kind of lumped all of our professional, you know, teaching staff, social workers, all that stuff in that category.
So when you say 5.6 ed techs, we already have them on staff, you just,
Well, they're currently on staff paid through the pre-K budget, and then we would move, and
so
actually,
generally they're pre-K.
the other piece that's important for that to note is that we currently have 3 per town, and we'll go to 2 per town.
What was the last one? Down the assistant principal.
Yeah, there's a 0.6
Yeah.
Milton and 0.5 is Northbrook.
That comes to a
And
total of
then was there-
1.5.
Was there one more person?
There was a
Custodian.
custodian.
Oh, custodian, okay.
We talk about the assistant administrator in the
Mhm.
elementary schools.
I do want to just say,
Okay.
just time wise, we are almost at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So, but,
It's okay to.
yep,
yeah,
yep,
Put
absolutely.
it out there.
I'm really concerned about the lack of coverage in the central offices in the 2 elementary schools that are going to be affected. The principal can't be in there all day answering the phone. I know I called North Berwick Elementary just the other day and Heather picked up. Because Mr. Donuts was otherwise occupied, I think probably in the cafeteria with lunches. There is legislation pending to take or to disallow students from having a personal device, a cell phone. And that's supposed to take effect in August, and that's bell to bell. That's going to be a state law. So if kids can't have a cell phone and parents can't get anybody at the office, that's a concern. And I'm not saying that the assistant principals need to be clerical or answering the phone. That's a little bit, it's just that coverage. Is there a way that we could take one position away, one half-time position away, and then give each school a half-time position?
So that's a proposal.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, can you,
That would be a quarter of it, if you took a half.
can you explain it a little more about what your thoughts are behind it? Just, I mean, not the thoughts behind it, but like, how would that look?
Like,
What
you
are
want
you
to,
thinking?
you want to put the part-time assistant principals back in the budget, but find the money like remove the money of their jobs somewhere else in the budget?
No, I would like to put those roles back in. I don't know if it necessarily has to be two people, though. I'm saying perhaps one person
Does both schools.
does both schools.
I agree. I think there are other issues that assistant principals deal with that we're really
Yeah,
going to.
besides the phones.
Answer.
Own issue, that's the secretary.
My experience is they typically handle the behavior piece.
Yeah.
What's happening.
That's, if we lose them, what is it? I wrote this down. If we lose them,
Staff loses a lot of support.
stuff is going to fall on someone's shoulders. And what is that stuff and whose shoulders is it going to fall on? I think is,
And that management,
Sorry.
of that cell phone stuff is going to fall on somebody too.
It's going to be big.
That's gonna
It's
be-
going to have a big
Yeah.
impact.
Now I say that because I am very pro, principal and assistant principal. I'm working in the school, my experiences, they work so hard. And even with two people, there's more work for those two people. It's not makeup and that's not people just wanting to spend money. But we do have to think about the budget. And so my thing is, yes, I would like to see those positions stay, but can we find, are there other places we can cut? And I'm not saying staff because I'm really not pro cutting teachers, ed techs. That's the part where I struggle, where I do feel like we have to be very mindful of what we're spending, but I also think we're going to see behaviors ramped up if we lose those assistants.
Do we not have behavior interventionists, guidance counselors and social workers in every one of these schools at the elementary level?
We do.
And I,
Yes, at North Berwick, we are looking for a teacher for the behavior intervention.
aren't they kind of the first point of contact before the administrator steps in?
Typically, yes.
And do they usually function fairly well and resolve some of the issues?
If you have 5 at a time, because that happens, that literally happens where you have.
You have 5 at a time, you are in trouble and you have to pull in multiple staff, including an assistant, a principal, or anybody else, perhaps the superintendents that are walking through, because we have people in place to deal with these issues.
So one of the,
We-
yeah, one of the things that this document does is it shows at the top, MSAD 60. It goes through our schools, not the middle high school, just with what we currently have for student enrollment and the administrators. And then what we did was we broke it out based on some neighboring districts. So we have Bonnie Eagle, so their elementary schools, Kittery, Kennybunk, Marshwood, Sanford, Saco, Waterboro, Wells, and York. Just food for thought as we knew that, we know this is a good discussion. And so we wanted to provide this to you. So you can just look at that and think about it.
And obviously ours is very specific because we know exactly the name of each,
right.
but this is just
Yeah.
the breakdown.
Yes.
And we don't know what these districts are having to do in this budget cycle yet, or do we?
Not 100%.
Okay,
No.
but you anticipate
Sure.
this might be what?
This is, so like I talked with, Bonnie Eagle yesterday,
Okay,
and this is where they're looking
okay.
for, yes, to keep intact. Kittery is intact, like that is what Kittery will be doing. I don't believe Marshwood has any plans or subtract any administrators,
Not that I've heard.
nor does York.
So question, back to the assistant principal. You're concerned about answering a phone. Is there not a secretary or somebody in the office that does that?
Well, there definitely is.
Yeah.
My experience is very rarely does the principal or assistant principal answer the phone unless the secretary is taking a break, like they have to use the restroom or something, which does happen, or they have to go like eat. Then they'll cover the office, and it might have just been their secretary was out that day. Because when the secretary's out, it's usually your administrators that are covering that. They're.
Right, well, that would be understandable, unless you can get a substitute.
Yes, which is not often for that role anyway.
So there is somebody else in the office. Michelle's not an island to herself, right? You usually?
Elise works 2 days,
Okay.
3 days, but if like Kathy's out, then yes, sometimes it's just happens.
So anyway, this was just compiled for you to think about as we start talking about the assistant principal positions. And that's a good segue to next week, right? Like, I think it's a good start of the conversation. for next week.
What's our to-do list? I'm still unsure that we know.
To do, we know
Yeah,
that
we-
we have, Noble Intermediate School, we need some data.
You know, Denise,
Percentages,
was that
need
percent?
percentages.
Percentages, the, what's the word I wrote down?
Bond info.
Yes, the bond information.
Does anybody have more staffing questions that we can?
I have
More
a
information.
staffing question, and a completely unrelated.
Okay.
Okay.
The staff.
Unrelated, well, the unrelated might be easier, and it might not be a tonight answer. But when a school does a fundraiser, where do we see that in the budget?
You don't,
Okay,
because each school has an activity account, different funds in it. So if there's a book fair, for example, the library has a fund there. So any monies they raise go into that fund. They're kept by the school secretaries in conjunction with the central office. And things when the librarian wants to buy books or extra things, she goes through that account. So it is not in this because we're like the fiduciary, we're the person responsible for tracking it all, but it's for the purpose it's collected.
okay. Okay, thank you.
An added book.
Okay. Just in general, I'm sorry, staffing wise, just as far as looking at, we're looking at so many specific student facing positions, and I'm not saying they're not, but I guess I would like to see job descriptions and get more information about our math coaches, where we have a director of teaching and learning, and where most of our programs have a lot of resources. I don't know if that's an area we can save or not, but it just, if that helps some of these direct student facing interventions, et cetera. I feel like we have mentors, or we could more utilize mentors possibly, volunteers in the public, different things to maybe assist with some of that, some more collaboration among teachers during, like on Wednesdays. I don't know, just tossing it out there.
Yeah, like volunteer tutors or something.
Yeah.
That's a good
Teach
idea.
the teacher.
Okay, well, the coaches are for professional development.
Yeah.
For the staff, because we have a whole new program that everybody's working through, but
It's tougher.
there could.
But it comes
There could be.
with a lot of, does it come with a lot of resources? Okay.
I wanted to question the transportation assistant director.
Yeah, job description for that.
I don't even think it's that hard
No, I
anyway,
feel
so
like-
it's okay.
Like Nancy mentioned last time, like, there's a lead teacher that would step in for a principal. So I don't know why, like, I was thinking maybe a bus driver could be a lead
Hey, driver.
bus driver, and they could step in if the director's out, and then it could be like a stipend position for that, and that way. Because we want the assistant to be CDL, we're having trouble getting CDL, that sort of.
It's a lot.
I think downstairs when she's out, it's because she's
Yeah.
driving.
I know, but we're having such a hard time getting
know.
CDL drivers, so it's hard
Get
to say this is an assistant with CDL.
So we can come up with
Yeah.
some scenarios
Mhm.
for that.
Just thought like if someone, like someone, if she's on elementary and a high school. Not just sort of playing around.
So why don't we talk about timing? So next week is a board meeting week. So, and we typically do try to have a facilities meeting before, so that's a lot, right? Like if we did a facilities, a board meeting and a workshop.
We only have two.
Right, I know. So do we?
We gotta talk.
Right. So do we start the budget workshop at 6? Do we go 6 to?
6 to 8-ish, and then whatever regular business needs to be done, we could do it after
And
that.
we can have very short business.
Yeah, short business.
Very short business
And no facilities.
proposal.
Yeah.
Because I think, to be honest with you, it's all of you who are on the facilities committee anyway, so maybe we can talk about some of that.
Combine it,
Mhm.
because a lot of pieces.
Yes,
in
exactly.
facilities
Yeah.
can affect
Yes.
us.
Does 6 o'clock start time work?
I'll ask the dogs. They'll probably tell me no. I won't listen.
And then you'll say, oh, well.
Okay, that's what he said tonight.
Okay.
Too bad.
So we'll be here at 6 o'clock in the library. We'll get the agenda out tomorrow.
Is there any reason why we can't? Hang them under the table before I ask this question. We have so much to talk. Could we just not have another meeting? I mean, on another day or to go over some of this stuff? I mean, the more we talk about it, the more we sort it out. So, and I think we can reach an agreement if we keep talking, but if we end up walking away before, because we ran out of time, we have that same issue over and again. And I just think, we just need to have more time and we need to find the time to hash out these things that are cropping up for understanding.
So we had a policy committee meeting one time and we did ask Connor to sit in on that to give some guidance for, one of the policies. And many of you showed up for that. So does Tuesday work?
I'll make it work.
I'm just
We could even
reiterating.
still do policy 5 to 6. I don't know what you decide.
Right.
Are we talking about
Right.
this Tuesday?
Skipping.
We're skipping a week.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if it's this Tuesday.
This Tuesday, we were skipping. 'cause I
Right.
think there's a couple
Right,
of
because
us
there
skipping
are
this Tuesday.
conflicts.
So you're talking about instead of policy or in addition to policy?
Just a proposal of that date.
Like for this coming Tuesday.
No, the next Tuesday.
Oh,
This
24th.
Tuesday won't work because we had some
Yeah.
conflicts.
Oh, yeah, that's
So the
fine.
24th?
Yes. Just,
I'm still confused. So no policy, just,
or the
budget
proposal
or-
was, do we do a policy and a budget workshop?
So like 5 to 6 policy and then 6 start the budget workshop.
Do that 6 to 8?
So that would be in addition. That would be good. And then this coming Thursday, you'd still be doing
A very short board meeting.
and more budget.
This Thursday,
So keep our existing dates and add an
and then
additional day.
Tuesday budget, and then the following.
That, the only thing that day is it's the.
And Thursday would be a
Band.
budget meeting, so we actually might.
In the day. I know.
Okay, there's some of these questions and concerns.
We can do
I might just be right.
No, I think the more conversations you have, the better.
I think that's.
I don't know if we're, where we're gonna get.
it's just, I think, well,
So did you say Tuesday, March 24th
Mhm.
at 6?
That's the
Yes.
proposal.
That's the proposal.
Okay. I have to look at my calendar.
yeah, me too. I know.
Is it, like, can we just pencil it in and then have next Thursday's meeting and see where we're at and if we have to
I
keep
mean,
it or
the
not?
reality of it is that you won't be voting on anything until the April meeting, the first of April. We don't have everybody here tonight. It's a good conversation. You're gonna need again. So if somebody can't be here, it's okay. You can send in
And we're missing 2 people tonight.
questions, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think we do have questions that we've been receiving and we
Yeah,
know that
trying
we'll
to
be
answer them.
discussing them
And a
as
lot of
well.
them you've been answering through the email anyway.
Trying.
So, I mean, I think it's been working. Just I don't want to end up looking at the budget and saying, oh, God, why didn't we see that?
So we're penciling in the 24th at 6:00. We'll get more feedback next week on that and how much progress we've made this week. We have agenda items. I mean, we've got a to-do list.
Mhm.
All right. I mean, we could propose not having an official, like a regular meeting and just calling all next week a budget workshop.
I feel like if you keep the list short, to at least stay on top of our regular confirming minutes, like just some of the shorter things
We can do that.
would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, we can do a very brief meeting and then move into the budget.
And that way, if something comes up that needs to be on there, you have that flexibility to still add it.
So maybe we do the regular meeting at 6. Like start the meeting at 6, get that done, and then move into the budget.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Breaking.
Okay. All right. We'll send that out.
All right.
We have,
No, so we just go.
make a motion, if we go into executive session.
So,
Make a
yeah,
motion
so
to
we're
adjourn.
telling all of our public
Okay, we
that
can-
we're gonna go into executive session.
Yes.
We will not do any other public business after that. Have a lovely evening. and Thank you for being here.